Shredders, this is the first video in a series where we go and break down my riding from a kid up into now, pointing out the mistakes, what I was working on, just how I went and got better at snowboarding. Because one of the things you'll find as you snowboard is even when the tricks start getting bigger, start getting less relatable, the same baseline mistakes people are making are true for 360s, 720s, 1080s. It's the same mistakes just applied to a higher level, and these techniques applied to higher tricks. So here we're going to go and look at what I struggled with growing up, what I struggle with now, and just how I go and approached it and improved these lessons. So we're going to start with 2012. Each one of these videos will be a year or so in my snowboarding lifeline, and we'll go from there. So first, I'm a backside spinner. Backside spinning has always been my thing, and I've gone through a lot of different forms and techniques. So here is a backside 360. I didn't really bother doing many backside ones. I mostly really ground out the backside 360, and we have a few massive problems here. So first, let's go and look at the setup carve. I'm getting on my toe edge way too soon. See how I'm like getting on my toe edge right before the spoon of a jump? This is actually a pretty good setup carve where I'm not going and drifting off the end and keeping a straight line. Honestly, a pretty good takeoff. I digress from this point, okay? So the mistakes we're seeing here are open, wound up for way too long, and doing too exaggerated of a snap. And look at my torso here. I go from a tall position, go get down, and then lift up. So I'm getting an upward and downward motion in these rotations, and that's going to slow down my whole sideways rotational momentum. And that's why we're getting disconnected here and needing to use counter rotation. And that's the other thing that's happening. Even though the head's in the right spot, arms are leading the rotation, there isn't that clean, consistent pop off the jump, making it so I'm getting disconnected from my upper and lower body, and I'm trying to flail around the backside 360. So that's a big problem I had with my riding. And there's actually a problem here that I still have today that I need to go and work on because I just noticed it. And that is this front arm here. My front arm is going and throwing and dropping down towards the side. So well, you don't want to drop your arm like this. First of all, if you have your arm down to your side, you have less angle, less like arm juice to get into rotation, and it's going to have the tendency of dropping your lead shoulder, lifting your back shoulder, which can give you a bit of a weird axis of rotation. But here, I go and doing a side hit, so the setup carve isn't as important. I go and get a good snap off the tail, head leading the rotation, but we're over leading the rotation here. So see how the upper body snapped, disconnected from the lower body, causing the front leg to go up? This means that I'm snapping too hard up the takeoff, and that's making it so I don't have rotational power. So it's coming around a bit better, but still snapping too hard. So this one is a lot cleaner. Coming in, nice toe edge, good patient takeoff of the tail, good head positioning, but you can still see that my upper body is really rotated. You can leave that rotated for like 5s, 7s, rotations that take longer to like catch up, but for 360s, they mess you up. So here, first ever contest back free, and this is where you can start seeing a bit more of my problems with a stressful situation. And I'm starting to go and lean forward and have my body arc. What's making it so my throw is aimed downwards, and that's setting me to be very nose heavy coming into a landing, and that's causing me to not land. So that was my big problem with the jumps. Winding up too hard, snapping too hard, getting disconnected. My problem for the rails this year is a little bit different. Let me just go and find it. But you'll see, I did this problem pretty much every single hit. And that's a wild thing about snowboarding. You can do the same mistake over and over and over. I even had coaches at this point, but they weren't the most established riders. So here, trying backside spins on. And the biggest problem I had with my rails early on is twofold. First, I was trying bigger tricks when I needed to. When you're learning rails, you just want to be doing 50-50s, backboards, front boards, doing the progression for those tricks, not trying to do 270s odd. But I didn't know better. I thought it was cool. But a big problem I had with my rails, the second issue, is I go too slow. Look at where I'm landing on the rail. I'm half on the rail, half on the takeoff. And that's just because I'm hitting those features too slow. And this took me a lot of years to go and figure out. Speed is your friend on features. So here you can see that I'm going and doing two problems. Popping up too soon, going too slow, and that's making it so I land very high on the rail. You want to be landing more like here, 30%, closer to halfway down a rail. Very long rails, obviously the exception, but a little box like that, you want to be hitting it with speed and confidence. especially like here, went to a rail, and it just doesn't work. You're not going to lock into a rail if you're not hitting it with enough speed. Since we're going and doing these early years here and there isn't too much going on, we'll go and keep this one pretty short. But here on the box, same thing. I'm getting on it, and look at how much time I'm spending on a box. I could try the same thing, same speed now, and it wouldn't be going any better for me. That's just how it works. The powder riding, we're not going to look too much into carving and this stuff because I didn't get too much. But here, coming up the rail, and look at popping off. It's just very slow, very timid rail riding, but that's part of learning. I just recommend going and trying to focus less on doing the bigger tricks and more getting comfortable with the features, getting more comfortable with speed, and your counter rotation, practicing that at home. At this point, I wasn't doing any practice at home. I didn't know what I was doing. So here, these backboards, I guess we'll just break it down a little bit because I bet this is relatable for some people out there in the audience. So problems here are a couple front. First, upper body opening preemptively early. I'm opening before I snap. This is giving me less bang, less funk in my form. And next, I'm going really slow, landing almost back on the takeoff with a jump. And that also means I'm 2-foot jumping, not riding off my tail, using that force. Instead, I have my board coming off the takeoff at the same time. For those of you that don't know, you want to be holding contact with the takeoff until your tail snaps off the end, because that naturally puts you over the feature. So here, 2-foot jump, going too slow, counter rotation, making it so I land completely stacked. And from here, you're just a passenger mode. You can't really control much. You just have to go with your momentum. And we're going to end this video off with a make. So there, made the backside 360 on, and that's just trial and error. It took me a bunch of tries. Oh, this front board's pretty hilarious. I freaking suck at front boards, especially back then. But this one is actually a prime example of the problem people have on front boards. Popping up super tall, super exaggerated, rotating, and this is causing me to land toe edge heavy. Whenever you take off and fully extend your body, it's going to make it so you come into a feature not ideal. And then from here, my body position is just too tall. So what I mean by too tall is, look at my body weight is just set straight in a line. Why this isn't ideal is because it makes it so my weight's set all the way over here, what's going to cause me to fall forward onto my toe edge. So what I'd want to do here is let my hip shift out, upper body come down a little bit, get less leaned forward on these knees, and that's going to put me more stacked over the center of my snowboard. So this is just me trying to be stacked over the center of my snowboard, but because I have a slight bit of a lean, it's actually putting me very heavy onto my toe edge. And that's really a common problem with frontside board slides, and just makes it really hard. And then the other problem, obviously way too slow. And here are my last backside 360s of the season, and this is where you start seeing the problems come. That's going to really go and plague us in the later videos in the series. And that is throwing downwards, breaking at the waist. Look at how leaned over that is, rotation down, and that makes it so when you throw, your arms snap up, and then I'm disconnecting my head from my body, trying to get that spot around. Basically, it's a fear, lack of comfortability thing, causing me to go break at the waist, not feel in control, and then trying to force rotation around. And then we'll end it off with this epic tame dog attempt. Such an amazing, this one just really showed that I was going to be one of the world's best snowboarders from the get-go. Yep. Yes, sir. So I honestly wouldn't change anything about this first attempt. You can see really set up for success. If I would have landed here, would have went right into the trees, good powder zone, and really got the first 20% of a rotation around, what is really all you want on a tame dog. I guess we'll just, for the jokes, go into why this didn't work. First, going too slow. Second, soft takeoff, not a good platform to generate rotation off. Third, dropping the shoulder instead of throwing over the nose. Look at how I'm crumpling down. You can't crumple down on a tame dog. It's going to cause you to just fall on your face, roll on your shoulder. And next, where the hell was I thinking I was going to go if I did land bad? So, not set up for success, nor did I know how to do the trick. And yeah, that was basically this year. My problems were hitting the rails too slow, going and snapping the jumps too hard, getting disconnected. And for the next year, to fix this, I just kept riding and I moved on to some bigger jumps. And in the next video, we'll go and cover the hurdles that we had to overcome for the next season. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you like this content format. And if you do, we'll keep making them.